was happy in the bakery. I just sometimes felt when I got out of it I would like to get a little farther out. Mom had been in one of her bad moods that particular week, sharp and short with everyone but the customers. Not that she saw them much anymore. She was in the office doing the paperwork and giving hell to any of our suppliers who didn't behave. I'd been having car trouble and was complaining about the garage bill to anyone who'd listen. No doubt Mom heard the story more than once, but then I heard her weekly stories about her hairdresser more than once, too. She and Mary and Liz all used Lena, I think so they could get together after and discuss her love life, which was pretty interesting. But Sunday evening she overheard me telling Kyoko, who had been out sick and was catching up after 5 days away, and Mom lost it. She shouted that if I lived at home, I wouldn't need a car at all, and she was worried about me because I looked tired all the time. And when was I going to stop dreaming my life away and marry Mel and have some kids? Supposing that Mel and I wanted to get married, which hadn't been discussed. I wondered how Mom would take the appearance at the wedding of the remnants of Mel's old motorcycle gang, which is to say the ones that were still alive, with their hair and their rocks and griffins. Even Mel still had an old griffin for special occasions, although it hemorrhaged oil, and their attitude problems. They never showed up in force at the coffee house, but she'd noticed them at the kind of wedding she'd expect me to have. The obvious answer to the question of children was, who was going to look after the baby while I got up at 4 a.m. to make cinnamon rolls? Mel worked as appalling hours as I did, especially since he'd been promoted to head cook when Charlie had been forced, by a mutiny of all hands, to accept that he could either delegate something or drop dead of exhaustion. So house husbandry wasn't the answer. But in fact, I knew my family would have got round this. When one of our waitresses got pregnant and the boyfriend left town and her own family threw her out, Mom and Charlie took her in, and we all babysat in shifts, in and out of the coffee house. We'd only just got rid of Mom's sister Evie and her 4 kids, who'd stayed for almost 2 years, and one mom and one baby seemed like pie in the sky in comparison. Especially after Evie, who was professionally helpless. Barry was in 2nd grade now, and Emmy was married to Henry. Henry was one of our regulars, and Emmy still waitressed for us. The coffee house is like that. I liked living alone. I liked the silence, and nothing moving but me. I lived upstairs in a big old ex-farmhouse at the edge of a federal park with my landlady on the ground floor. When I'd gone round to look at the place, the old lady, very tall, very straight, and a level stare that went right through you, had looked at me and said she didn't like renting to young people. She said this like you might say dog vomit, because they kept bad hours and made noise. I liked her immediately. I explained humbly that indeed I did keep bad hours because I had to get up at 4 a.m. to make cinnamon rolls for Charlie's coffee house, whereupon she stopped scowling magisterially and invited me in. It had taken 3 months after graduation for Mom to begin to consider my moving out, and that was with Charlie working on her. I was still reading the apartments for rent ads in the paper surreptitiously and making the phone calls when Mom was out of earshot. Most of them in my price range were dire. This apartment, up on the 3rd floor at the barn end of the long rambling house, was perfect, and the old lady must have seen I meant it when I said so. I could feel my face light up when she opened the door at the top of the 2nd flight of stairs, and the sunshine seemed to pour in from every direction. The living room balcony, cut down from the old hayloft platform but now overlooking the garden, still has no curtains. By the time we signed the lease, my future landlady and I were on our way to becoming fast friends, if you can be fast friends with someone who merely by the way she carries herself makes you feel like a troll. Maybe I was just curious. There was so obviously some mystery about her. Even her name was odd. I wrote the check to Miss Yolanda. No Smith or Jones or Fitzayland Howard or anything. Just Miss Yolanda. But she was always pleasant to me, and she wasn't wholly without human weakness. I brought her stuff from the coffee house, and she ate it. I have that dominant feed people gene that I think you have to survive in the small restaurant business. You sure aren't doing it for the money or the hours.